The alien mother's plea was soft, intimate, and only one human responded. The transmission came at 0300 hours, during Dante Cross's watch aboard the USS Meridian. As commander of Deep Space Communications, he'd heard every variety of cosmic noise, pulsars, stellar radiation, the electromagnetic chatter of distant civilizations going about their incomprehensible business. But this was different. This was meant for him. "Please, if you can hear this, I need help." The voice was soft, feminine, threaded with desperation that transcended language barriers. His translation software struggled with the alien phonemes, but the emotion came through crystal clear. Dante's hand hovered over the alert button that would wake his entire crew, following every protocol hammered into him during 20 years of service. He didn't press it. "My name is Valena. I know this violates your contact procedures. I know I risk everything by reaching out. But my son, he's dying, and your kind might be his only hope." Dante leaned closer to his console, heart pounding a way that had nothing to do with first contact protocols. The signal was tightly beamed, encrypted in a way that bypassed every military relay. Somehow, this woman, this alien mother, had found a way to speak to him and him alone. "I've studied your species for cycles. I know you value family. Protect children. I'm not asking for your government or your military. I'm asking you, please just listen." His fingers moved across the keyboard before his brain caught up, typing a response he knew could end his career. "I'm listening." The pause stretched long enough that Dante wondered if he'd imagined the whole thing. Then, "Thank you." "Oh, stars, thank you." The relief in her voice cracked something open in his chest. Dante had spent 2 decades in the service, married to his duty after his actual marriage had crumbled under the weight of deep space deployments. He'd forgotten what it felt like to be needed, truly needed, by another person. "I'm transmitting coordinates. An abandoned station in neutral space. I know it's dangerous for you. I know what I'm asking. But please meet me. Let me explain in person. I promise I come alone, unarmed, with only hope." Dante stared at the coordinates materializing on his screen. Every regulation, every bit of training screamed at him to report this immediately. First contact situations required committees, diplomats, armed escorts, and months of preparation. But something in Valena's voice, the raw vulnerability, the mother's desperate love, bypassed every logical objection. When he typed, 2 days. And Dante, thank you for being human enough to answer. She'd use his name. Somehow, impossibly, she knew his name. As her signal faded, Dante Cross began plotting the most dangerous decision of his life. The abandoned station rotated slowly against a backdrop of distant stars, a relic from humanity's first ambitious push into deep space. Dante's shuttle docked with a hollow clang that echoed through empty corridors. He'd fabricated a maintenance run, burned personal favors, and disabled his ship's tracking beacon. Court-martial offenses. All of them. Yet here he stood, pulse racing, waiting. "Dante." He turned. She stood in the doorway, backlit by emergency lighting, and every preconception he'd held about alien life evaporated. Valena was tall, slender, her form undeniably humanoid yet distinctly other. Her skin held a faint luminescence, like moonlight on water, shifting with subtle iridescence. Dark hair fell in waves past her shoulders, and her eyes, large and expressive, shimmered with unshed tears. She wore simple clothing that suggested both elegance and practicality. She was beautiful. "You came," she whispered, voice breaking. "You actually came. Tell me about your son," Dante said, fighting to maintain professional distance, even as something primal stirred within him. Valena's composure cracked. She moved closer, and he caught her scent. Alien yet somehow familiar, like rain on warm stone. "His name is Kale. He's 8 cycles old, about 6 of your years. He has a genetic disorder, a mutation that's destroying his immune system. Our medical technology can't fix it because we've never encountered it before. And you think humans can help? Our species share more genetic compatibility than either of our people know," she said, meeting his eyes with startling directness. "I've done the research in secret. The cure requires a genetic sample from a human, from someone willing to help. The implications hung between them like static electricity. Why me? Dante asked. Why not go through official channels? Velena's laugh was bitter. My people are isolationists. Asking humans for help will be considered contamination. I'd lose Kale to state custody before they'd ever consider it. And your people. She gestured at his uniform. How long before bureaucracy buries us in committees while my son dies? She wasn't wrong. Dante had seen promising initiatives strangled by red tape countless times. Show me, he said. Velena activated a holographic display from a device at her wrist. Images materialized. A small boy with his mother's luminous skin and wide, trusting eyes. In a progression of images, Dante watched the light fade from those eyes, watched a vibrant child become a fragile shadow. He asked about Earth. Velena said softly, about your oceans and forests. He makes me tell him stories about the brave humans who explore the stars. Her voice broke completely. I can't let him die believing his mother couldn't save him. Dante reached out instinctively, his hand closing over hers. The contact sent electricity through his body. Her skin was warm, almost feverishly so, and she gasped at his touch as though she felt it too. I'll help you, he said. Whatever you need. Velena looked up at him, tears finally spilling down her luminous cheeks. You don't know what you're offering. The genetic compatibility requires. It's not just a simple sample. The process is intimate, personal. I understand, Dante said, though his heart hammered against his ribs. Do you? She stepped closer, close enough that he could feel the heat radiating from her skin. I'm asking you to trust me completely, to give part of yourself to save a child you've never met. Yes, Dante said simply. Something shifted in Velena's expression, gratitude, relief, and something deeper that made his breath catch. She reached up, her fingers trembling as they touched his face, tracing the line of his jaw with wonder. You're extraordinary, she whispered. In that moment, standing in an abandoned station between their worlds, Dante realized he was falling into something far more complex than a rescue mission. 3 weeks passed in stolen moments. Dante fabricated training exercises and equipment inspections, anything to explain his absences. Each meeting with Velena at the station deepened the connection growing between them, something that transcended the medical procedures and genetic compatibility tests. Your people don't know loneliness like mine do, Velena said one evening, sitting beside him in the observation deck of the abandoned station. Stars wheeled past the viewport, indifferent to the boundaries they were crossing. My society values collective harmony over individual connection. When Kale's father died, I became invisible, a widow with a sick child, an inconvenience. Dante understood that invisibility. My ex-wife used to say I was married to space itself, that I gave everything to the mission and nothing to her. She wasn't wrong. Do you regret it? I regret not knowing how to be what she needed. He turned to Velena. But I don't regret being here. With you. Her luminescent skin seemed to glow brighter, and he'd learned this was a sign of strong emotion. She leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder in a gesture that felt both foreign and perfectly natural. The treatment is working, she said quietly. Kale's markers are improving. He has more energy, more hope. She lifted her head, eyes glistening. You're saving him, Dante. You're giving me back my son. We're doing this together, he said, tucking a strand of her dark hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered on her cheek, and she turned into his touch like a flower seeking sun. I've been alone for so long, Velena whispered. I've forgotten what it feels like to be seen, to be wanted. You're not alone anymore. The kiss happened like gravity, inevitable, natural, necessary. Her lips were soft and warm, and she tasted like something Dante couldn't name, but knew he'd been searching for his entire life. Velena made a small sound in her throat, her hands coming up to grip his uniform as though afraid he might vanish. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Velena's skin was radiant with inner light. This is dangerous, she said, even as her fingers traced patterns on his chest. For both of us, if our people knew. I don't care, Dante said, and realized he meant it completely. 20 years of protocol and duty, and it all seemed meaningless compared to the woman in his arms. Velena pulled him closer, and they sank to the floor of the observation deck, the stars bearing witness to what came next. Their lovemaking was slow, exploratory, filled with wonder at the similarities and differences between their bodies. She was soft where he was hard, cool where he burned hot, and together they created heat that had nothing to do with biology and everything to do with two lonely souls finally finding home. Afterward, tangled together beneath the wheeling cosmos, Velena traced a line of his collarbone with luminous fingers. "I'm falling in love with you," she said simply. "I know it's impossible. I know there's no future for us. But I need you to know." Dante caught her hand, brought it to his lips. "It's not impossible. Difficult, maybe. Complicated, definitely. But not impossible. You don't understand what you're saying. My people would exile me. Yours would court-martial you. And Kale," her voice caught. "What kind of life could we give him, caught between two worlds?" "Maybe," Dante said carefully, "we could give him a better world. One where a human and an alien falling in love isn't crime. Where a sick child gets help regardless of politics." Velena's eyes widened. "You're talking about revolution." "I'm talking about family," Dante corrected. "Yours. Mine. Ours." She kissed him again desperately, and he tasted salt, tears universal in their meaning. Hope and fear mixed in equal measure, the taste of a future neither of them could quite see, but both desperately wanted. Outside the viewport, stars continued their ancient dance, uncaring that two beings had just rewritten the rules of what was possible. But in 3 days, their secret would shatter, and both would face a choice that would change everything. The alert came during what should have been a routine transmission. "Commander Cross, report to Admiral Thorne's office immediately." Dante's blood turned to ice. He'd been careful, meticulous even, but the summons in Admiral Thorne's voice carried the weight of judgment already rendered. The walk to the Admiral's office felt like a death march. Thorne stood with her back to the door, hands clasped behind her, staring at a holographic display that made Dante's stomach drop. Surveillance footage, the abandoned station, his shuttle docking, and worse, internal security had flagged genetic material transfers in the medical logs he'd thought were encrypted. 20 years, Thorne said without turning. 20 years of exemplary service, and you throw it away for what? Unauthorized alien contact? Genetic contamination protocols violated? Do you have any idea what you've done? "I saved a child's life," Dante said quietly. Thorne spun, her face thunderous. "You've committed treason. Contact with unknown species requires authorization, levels you don't possess. The genetic exchange alone," she stopped, her expression shifting from anger to something worse, disappointment. "She got to you, didn't she? Some alien seduction." "It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Commander? Because from where I stand, you've been compromised. You're hereby relieved of duty, pending court-martial. Security will escort you to confinement." As guards entered, Dante's wrist calm vibrated. A message from Velena, encoded but desperate. "They know. They're coming for Kale. Help us." Velena clutched Kale against her chest as the Council of Elders surrounded them in the medical facility. Her son, finally healthy after weeks of treatment, looked up at her with confused, frightened eyes. "You contaminated him," Elder Thaxus said, his voice dripping with disgust. "Human genetic material flows through his veins now. He's no longer pure. He's alive." Velena shot back. "That's all that matters. You violated our most sacred laws. Contact with humans is forbidden. Genetic mingling is an abomination." Thaxus gestured, and guards moved forward. "The child will be taken into state custody for purification treatment. You will be exiled." "No." Velena's skin flared bright with panic. "The purification will kill him. You're sentencing my son to death because I dare to save him. You dare to pollute our genetic heritage," another elder intoned. "The punishment is just—" Kale began to cry, and Velena felt something break inside her. She'd save her son only to lose him anyway. Dante was in confinement, unable to help. They were both paying the price for crossing boundaries their peoples had deemed sacred. But as the guards reached for Kale, alarms blared throughout the facility. A human shuttle was approaching, broadcasting on all frequencies. And it wasn't military. Dante had made one call from confinement before they could fully lock down his communications. Not to his lawyer, not to his family, but to someone he trusted more than anyone. Captain Ria Alconquo, a civilian contractor who'd never met a regulation she couldn't creatively interpret. "You're insane," Ria said, even as she prepped her independent vessel. "You know that, right?" "Probably," Dante admitted, "but I'm not letting them die because we're all too afraid to change." Ria had connections, resources, and most importantly, no allegiance to military bureaucracy. Within hours, she'd orchestrated something unprecedented, a civilian intervention, broadcast across every channel, both human and alien. Her shuttle carried medical records, genetic data, and testimony from 3 human physicians confirming that Kale's treatment had been successful and safe. But more than that, it carried something neither government could ignore: public opinion. People of Earth and people of Valena's world, Ria broadcast, using Valena's real planetary designation. "You're witnessing something historic. A human and an alien working together to save a child. Commander Cross violated protocols. Yes. So did Valena. But they did it because sometimes love and compassion matter more than politics." The transmission showed images of Kale, before and after, a dying child, now vibrant and healthy. It showed Dante's service record, Valena's research, and the undeniable truth. Their collaboration had created a medical breakthrough neither species could have achieved alone. "You can punish them," Ria continued, "or you can recognize that this is the future. Not conquest, not contamination, but cooperation. The choice is yours." The broadcast went viral across both civilizations within hours. In confinement, Dante watched the feeds showing protests erupting on Earth. People demanding his release, calling him a hero rather than a traitor. Scientists requesting access to the genetic research. Parents of sick children begging for the same chance Kale had received. On Valena's world, the response was more subdued but no less significant. Quiet dissent among the younger generation, questioning why fear should override compassion. The Council of Elders found themselves facing something they'd never anticipated: accountability to public opinion. And Admiral Thorne, watching the political firestorm engulf both civilizations, realized that court-martialing Dante Cross would create a martyr the military couldn't afford. But the damage was done. Even if they were freed, where could they possibly go? 6 months later, Dante stood in the observation deck of the newly christened Horizon Station, no longer abandoned, but transformed into something unprecedented. A joint human-alien research facility and, quietly, a refuge. "Your appeal was successful," Ria said, approaching with a datapad. "Full pardon from Earth's Council. The court-martial is dismissed. You could go home, resume your career. They're even offering you a promotion, making you the poster child for responsible alien cooperation." Dante didn't take the datapad. And Valena? Still exiled from her world. The Council won't reverse that decision, even with public pressure. She's a symbol of defiance they can't forgive. Ria paused. But they're not preventing her from leaving, and they're allowing supervised visits with Kale. As if summoned by her name, Valena emerged from the medical wing, Kale bouncing excitedly at her side. The boy had grown, his luminous skin healthy and radiant, his eyes bright with the energy of a normal child. "Dante!" Kale ran forward, and Dante caught him in an embrace that still felt miraculous. This child, alive because 2 people had dared to break every rule. "How is he?" Dante asked Valena. "Perfect," she said softly, her eyes shining. "The treatment is stable. He's completely healthy." She hesitated. "I heard about your pardon." "You heard?" Valena looked away, toward the viewport where her homeworld was just visible as a distant point of light. "You should take it. Go home. Resume your life. You've sacrificed enough for us." Dante caught her hand, pulling her close. "You still don't understand, do you?" "Understand what?" "You're my home now. You and Kale." He gestured to the station around them, where human and alien scientists worked side by side, where impossible had become possible. This is my home. Not Earth. Not a military career. This. Tears spilled down Velena's luminous cheeks. But you'd be giving up everything. I'd be choosing everything that matters, Dante corrected. He looked down at Kale, who was watching them with wise, understanding eyes. Besides, someone needs to help raise this troublemaker. Can't leave that all to you. Kale giggled. Does this mean you're staying? Really staying? If your mother will have me. Velena's skin glowed so brightly that several nearby scientists looked over in wonder. You beautiful, foolish human. Of course I'll have you. Their kiss was witnessed by both species, broadcast by someone's enthusiastic camera work, and became the image that defined a new era. Not human or alien, but something entirely new. Rhea cleared her throat. So, about that promotion you're turning down? They're offering me your old position. Want to know what I told them? What? Dante asked, not looking away from Velena. I told them the future isn't in military protocols or isolation. It's in places like this. In people brave enough to love across impossible distances. She grinned. Then I took the job, because someone needs to make sure idiots like you don't start an interstellar incident. Again. Dante laughed, and Velena joined him, and Kale squealed with delight at being lifted into his mother's arms and pulled into Dante's embrace, creating a family that shouldn't exist but undeniably did. Over the following years, Horizon Station grew. More humans came, seeking the adventure of cooperation rather than conquest. More aliens arrived, their curiosity overcoming their fear. Children like Kale, caught between worlds, found a place where they belonged to both and neither, and something beautifully new. Dante and Velena formalized their bond in a ceremony that borrowed from both cultures and created something uniquely theirs. They faced challenges, cultural misunderstandings, political pressure, the everyday struggles of any family, but they faced them together. And when Kale grew old enough to ask why his family was different, Dante told him the truth. Because your mother was brave enough to ask for help, because I was human enough to answer, and because love doesn't care about the distance between stars. Velena added her hand in Dante's, her skin glowing with contentment, and because sometimes the most alien thing becomes home. Outside the viewport of Horizon Station, two worlds orbited their shared sun, no longer quite so separate. And in the space between them, something impossible bloomed, not human, not alien, but undeniably beautifully alive. The whispers across the stars have been answered, and the universe would never be quite the same. The end.